Welcome to the Light of Conscience podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I got to interview Jalen Lee, a 22-year-old Wayshower who is really getting out there, living his passion, and shining the light through spoken word. He challenged himself to do 365 days on Instagram, and he blesses us with one right on this podcast. Please enjoy, turn it up, click subscribe wherever you are, wherever you can, so you never miss another Wayshower's message. And if you'd like to join the conversation, please do so at bit.ly/LOC community, or you can search for Light of Conscience Community on Facebook and you'll see the whale.
Let's make love to the beauty of the lives we've yet to live, and bathe in the creation of the gifts we're bound to give. It's enough to sit and listen, it's enough to say good try. Don't know about tomorrow, but right
Life
now
is beautiful
we're
always,
shining.
and thank you for having me on again. It's such an honor, such a pleasure. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you to be here to share you and your energy with all the listeners. I wanted to ask you first to talk about something that I actually heard in your podcast. And in one of your podcasts, you mentioned self-auditing. And when you responded to my questions for you for, this podcast, you also mentioned emotional intelligence. That's something that you want to talk about. And I feel like those really tie in together. So I'll give a shout out to your Controversial Minds podcast, Minds with a Z. Go find it. And tell us about self-auditing and how it ties into emotional intelligence, and if you're still practicing that.
Well, thank you for the research. I didn't expect that question. I didn't expect that at all. But I actually do still practice these things. It's definitely something I try to do daily. I think it's super important for emotional intelligence to start out by self-auditing yourself. And it's not complicated. It's not something that's too hard. It's just as simple as taking a couple seconds out of your day and just seeing how you feel. If you feel up, if you feel down, if you feel this way or that way, and then understanding that feeling and reflecting on your day, and then seeing if there's anything that you can do to better your day. And that's what I like to do on a consistent basis, just so I can always check in with myself and ground myself and center myself and try to remain as intact and as intentional as possible about what I'm doing and the mind state that I'm doing it in.
Nice. Is there a specific time of day that you do this, or you just do it throughout your day, every day?
I do it as soon as I get up in the morning, and then I'll do it after I get off of work. So around the evening time, morning, evening.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea for me to do as well, before I go to work and then when I get home.
Indeed.
You can kind of reset then, right? It's kind of like a reset. It's a check-in, and it's like, okay, how am I doing and now what? Rather than okay, I'm kind of stressed out from work. I got to go to my cupboard and grab some food and, whatever you do when you're kind of, a little bit stressed or whatever. That sounds really cool. So what is your understanding of emotional intelligence?
From how I view emotional intelligence, I believe it's how I engage and interact with my feelings, and how I use the understanding of how I feel about myself and how I feel about the situations and the environments that I'm in to engage with the other peoples in those environments as best as I can, and put off the uplifting, positive energy that I normally embody across the board. And from my understanding of emotional intelligence, it's extremely complicated and difficult. A lot easier said than done, but is so worth exploring and grasping that understanding. I think it's a priceless asset to life.
Definitely. And my take on it, in a nutshell, like you said, it's quite complex, but I believe that any time we are reacting or responding to something, any outside stimuli, it's really our nervous system responding. So whatever my state of my nervous system is, it's going to that's what, like, the reason I'm going to be responding a certain way to whatever it is. If my nervous system is really heightened, like I'm in a higher stress,
A stress state.
fight or flight, you know, you definitely do respond differently. So when you can acknowledge that everything I'm responding to is actually coming from within me, like my response is not because of that thing out there, but what's in me, then you can maybe take a breath and try to look at what is out there at actual face value and not what your nervous system is thinking about it right now. I guess that's my take on it. And what you said basically falls right along the lines. So we're on the same page there, which is awesome.
That's spot on.
Yeah. So then I always like to ask at some point in the interview, like, you're a wayshower. It's obvious. You're a young wayshower, which is really wonderful. We need more of them. I think a lot of the kids, you know, the more and more of the kids are coming up and being like, dude, there's a better way. There's a better way. There's a better way. And sometimes, I'm just going to say this, sometimes the pendulum swings a little too far one way or the other. But then there's the ones that are more, you know, centered. And I see you as one of those that are really, like you said, just love and light. And like, and you're not saying it pretentiously, like, oh, I went to a yoga class, love and light. Like, no, you actually really embody it. So I want to know kind of how do you show up as a wayshower? What makes you a wayshower specifically?
I don't know if before this moment I ever really considered myself a wayshower, but I now that you're explaining it, I guess that it kind of is. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I would say it's just providing people with the environments to best open up and be themselves and be comfortable with themselves with me and engage with me in a state to where we can both learn and grow from each other and create a symbiotic relationship that is pushing us both forward into a more positive and uplifting perspective. I always see it in the perspective, like, and I use this example, like when someone comes and they tell you about an idea, there's two reactions. There's a reaction where you say, like, wow, that's a great idea, you know, and they get excited about the idea, and then they go continue to further and do their research and build up more momentum behind that. Or you could be someone who provides an environment that tears down that idea, and that could kill someone's dream. So I try to just be there and be positive and be as uplifting and as open and as thoughtful and as aware in the moment of what I can provide to that person for what they need.
And I see that. I see that so clearly. And I'm just going to put this out there. Like, Jalen and I have never even hung out. Like, I met him because he and your partner came to a yoga class that I was playing live music at with Stephanie Pierce. And so Jalen and I just started to get into a little bit of a conversation. And I sent you a mantra, I believe, and you emailed back. And I think I was just starting out my membership site too, or just the idea of it. And here's the cool thing about Jalen. He said, wow, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. Let me know if you need any marketing help or anything. Like, you could just tell his energy is like very supportive. You wanted this thing to grow and expand because you knew it was of love as well. And that's just how you are. So I connected with him on Instagram, like connected with you, I found you on Instagram, and all of a sudden I see these spoken words. And I'm like, these are amazing. The messages in this is just beautiful. And it's poetry, so it's art, and it's the light, and it's the truth, and it's conscience. That's what you put out there into the world, and it's so amazing. So I'm hoping, if you're not too shy about it, to do one on my podcast. I would love to share your spoken word with our listeners. What do you think? Would you do that?
I would. Do
you want to do it now, or do you want to prepare for a minute?
Maybe prepare for a minute and then do it at the end.
At the end? Okay, sounds good.
Close out with it.
Yeah, because you never know. Something might come up that will just like trigger a
what's interesting about the spoken word? I don't write them down. I do them all freestyle. I try to channel the words that come in.
I see that.
I believe that messages flow through. They don't exactly originate in. It's just like an encapsulation of being present in the moment and then these ideas are able to flow into presence.
That's a really good point that you brought up. I think you just channeled that, actually. I'm seeing Jalen right now because we're on Zoom, and I'm like, yeah, that was a channel right there. And I think that's actually how a lot of Wayshower messages and arts and music and all of that does come through. It's like all of a sudden we have this insight, and it's the light. It's the channeled message that we're here to bring. And then voila, you either video it and post it on Instagram or YouTube or wherever, maybe on your podcast, who knows what's coming through here, or Facebook Live, or in my case, I'll sit down with my guitar sometimes and I'll just focus on either an emotion or something that happened, and I'll just feel into that energy of it and see what comes through. And in my case, I do write it down, but that's because I want to sing the song again, you know what I mean? But in your case, it's like it's never gonna stop. You're gonna do the spoken word. There's gonna be so many spoken words by Jalen because you're just gonna keep going as long as you live.
I literally have about 1,500 unreleased videos.
Wow, that's amazing. No, really, like that. You got to start a membership site or something with that. That's really, really amazing. It's like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we'll have to talk a little bit more about that off the air. You're gonna be my mentor.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's do it. So what I think of when you said you had all these unreleased videos, and I said, you're just going to keep going and going and going, it feels like you're Rumi. Rumi just, every instant he was a poet and he was being his poems. And it's like, that's that's Jalen for me. Because every time I see you on Instagram or whatever, you're always just beaming the light, and it's really beautiful. That leads me into another question, actually. How did you find this? Have you always, like, from the moment you spoke, have you been doing spoken word? What about your mindset right now of love and light? Were you born with that, or did something, shift and trigger that?
So the spoken word, I'll start with that one. It really came from a moment. I was actually just having a conversation with someone about this. Hawaiian Brian's, we live in Hawaii, so Hawaiian Brian's does a spoken word the first Thursday of every month. And then I really wanted to do it. I have been writing poetry down, and something was just like, go to the spoken word and do it. And there's one day I had no money. I couldn't even afford to get on the bus and go. And I was just like, you know what? I got to do this. Like, something was just calling for me to do it. So I put up my Google Maps and I drove on my bike 12 miles to Hawaiian Brian's. And I changed in the bathroom, signed up, and I sat there for 3 hours and didn't get called because the time frame was just so short. And then I changed out of my clothes. I'm a little bit upset because I'm just like, man, I just came out all this way. I literally drove my bike out here. But I'm like, honestly, this was meant to happen, because I have a belief that if you want something, you're going to be tested to see how bad you want it. So it was just like a test. And then I drove the 12 miles back home on my bike. And I was just thinking the whole time, man, I got to do something so where I can just be free and do what I want to do. And then I was watching an interview with Gary Vaynerchuk and this guy named Nipsey Hussle. And he said, if you're really good enough, then put out something every single day. You should do a challenge or something behind it. And I was just like, man, I'm doing spoken word with Jay. 365-day spoken word challenge. And then I just started. And it was a little bit hard. I was a little bit insecure. I was just like, this is not going to be good enough. I'm not that good. I've never really done this.
Well, welcome to the club. Nobody feels completely secure starting out, putting their true, authentic self out there for people to see. We're not raised to do that. Some people might be, and they're very few and far between and very lucky souls. Not saying that the rest of us are victims here, but that whole story just amazed me. You drove your bike 12 miles, sat for 3 hours, did not get picked. That would have stopped so many people. So many people would have just given up. They just would have been like, well, I guess I'm not supposed to do this. But you knew in your heart and your soul, deep in your bones, you knew this is what I'm here for. I'm doing this. And what did you do? You made it happen. So that story is going to inspire I want to say millions of people. Tell that story, because we are all at that place at some point in our lives. Yeah. So what day are you on?
I'm on day 243.
And how can people find these Spoken Word with Jay?
It's on my Instagram at PV2031_JAY.
And really, like, everything you're saying just shows how big your heart is. And I'm just so grateful. Really, I'm just so grateful that there are people like you on this planet. I'm not just saying that. I don't just say stuff. It's really awesome to know that. Because sometimes it can feel like there aren't that many people out there like that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's in the beginning, when I first started to go down the journey, I was like, man, this is a little weird. Not a lot of people think like this.
Yes.
A lot of people claim to have the thought pattern, but the intentions don't exactly back up the words that they're trying to portray. And
that's so true.
it really gives the whole positive movement kind of like some people give a bad vibe. They're just like, oh, you're doing this, you're being hippy dippy, but they don't see it's honestly it's a real soulful thing. It's not something that you just fake it till you make it. It's something that just kind of hits your heart one day, and you're just like a positivity and plague that's taken over your body, but it's like the most uplifting and like soul exploring thing that you ever experienced. And it's hard to truly connect on that level with some people unless they really have taken the time to search their own souls. And I feel like in a sense you can really tell by the look in someone's eyes if they have, like, for instance, when I first met you and you were playing your guitar at the yoga, the first time that I came and I met you afterwards, I shook your hand and I looked into your eyes and they were just wide open and super bright. I could almost, because it was kind of a dark room, it was like I could almost see the like light shining off your eyes. And I'm just like, wow, she's awesome.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. What a compliment. Oh my God. That makes me feel so warm inside. Wow. So let Jalen see you because he sees you. That's what I say. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, yeah. I think too, like you said, there's not that many people. I liken it to a crossroads, right? So there's crossroads that we're on, and most of us always, our whole lives are going down this road, this big road. It's a highway basically of, the go to college, get a job, get a house, have the family, all of that. And then there's the crossroad, which is actually just a path, and it's the path of the heart. And at some point in our lives, we're going to come up to that crossroads, and it's a choice. It is absolutely a choice. Do we keep going straight forward? Because we sure can. And I have. But you know what? That crossroad, it's not like a one-time thing. It's going to come up again. And then when you do decide to take that path of the heart, you step to the right or the left, and then you're on this skinny little nature walk through the wilderness. And you don't see all the other people on it because they're focused on their own thing and they're focused on finding their own light to follow. Here's the thing. There's going to be another highway crossing that path, and you're going to have a chance to get right back on that, that fast track road, right? Fast track to what, though? For me, it was depression and anxiety. So I was like, I don't want to do that again. You too, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's really that what you just described is every single person who lives a daily life. And I think what you're doing is so special, especially right now in the state of the world, because we're seeing the direct consequences of what that life that you were just describing, like just continuing on a road that is not exactly where you want to go.
But it's the busy one. It's where other people are, so you can see what they do, so then you think you know what to do.
100% spot on. And to give insight into how thoughtful you are and how much insight that you've taken into yourself, you even went into saying that there's multiple crossroads in life. And to be aware of that, which means you've done some soul searching and you've been in those situations. And then right now I feel like so many people are coming to that exact awareness of like, I'm standing in the middle of the crossroads and I'm not moving until I got a definite decision. And this type of art that you're putting into the world, this type of thoughtfulness, this type of consciousness, I don't think I can know it's going to penetrate billions of people. This is going to be trillions. This is going to be it's never going to die. It's on the internet forever. And people are going to come back to this and use this as an encyclopedia of self-exploration for now and in the future. And it's so vital that anyone listening really just take the time. And if you're on the crossroads, understand what you actually need to be happy, not what the world has told you needed, not what you see the celebrities have, not what your parents have told you needed, not what your spouse has told you needed, what you actually need. Take a second. If you got to go up into a mountain and take a 2-hour hike, meditate, if you got to go for a swim, whatever you got to do, just find the moment to be still and truly understand what makes you happy, whether it's just a nice house, some food, whatever, and then understand that and then base your life off of that. Because if doing everything else for everyone and because of everyone outside of yourself has led you to a life that is unsatisfactory, then you do actually have the power to change that. So if you're at the crossroads and you've been on the tracks for a while and you don't know which way to go and you've been doing the same thing, maybe just try the other route and see if it produces anything different, because you could always go back to the busy roads. The trail is only getting slimmer because the roads are getting bigger where everybody's on. So it's, just take a chance.
I think there's going to be a theme in all of these Light of Conscience podcasts where I'm left wordless because I'm like, well, yeah. And it's not from me either. It's whoever I'm interviewing. They're going to say the thing, and then I'm going to be like, well, we're done. And I think we've come to that place. And just like the crossroads, of course we can keep going. We could talk forever. Because I want to share something else with the listeners that I've experienced and that I think is just important to remember when you're on that heart path, the one that's a little smaller. The first part of it, you need to be alone, because if you're not alone, how do you know how you relate to yourself in the world? Because we're always relating to that other person, always. So it is a very internal journey. But the beauty of it is we start meeting each other in real life and online, but also in real life. Like, I'm going to go to this yoga class. Oh, wow, there's live music. Oh, wow, look at that person. You'll start to run into these people, and it's the most beautiful thing to find your soul family. I'm going to cry. It's that beautiful to finally find your soul family. Or in my case, yeah, big heart. He's making a big heart. Maybe I should definitely put some of this video on my membership site for people, our outtakes, because it's pretty awesome. And I like your art in the background as well, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But in my case, so I've lived in 3 places. A lot of people have lived in way more than that. But, well, I should say it's more than 3 towns, but in 3 states. I've lived in 3 states. And the first Minnesota, the first soul family I met was in this really conservative town. But I think that when you live in a place that isn't very spiritual or quote unquote spiritual, it was very conservative and like a Catholic conservative, which is totally fine, but it's just not how I vibe. So I think it's actually almost easier to find your people in places like that, because we have to find each other because we stick out so much. And then I moved to the West Coast, where there was a lot of people into spirituality and personal and spiritual growth and love and light and yoga and all of that. But there was also this energy of what you were talking about earlier, where they'll say the words, because it's really easy to say the words, but look into their eyes and feel their spirit and feel the actual vibration and frequency that they're living, and it's different. And of course, I found some amazing friends there too. So I've got friends in Minnesota and Oregon, and of course they've moved, so now I have them just everywhere, and it's wonderful. And then I moved to Hawaii, and for the first 3 years that I lived in Hawaii, I basically stopped doing all of my, I guess I'm just going to call it light work, for that's a pretty common term. So I just kind of stopped, and I just thought, okay, I'm just going to enjoy myself, not try to put myself out there, because honestly, it's not easy work all the time. Especially when you feel like you're not being heard. You just, like, in my case anyhow, it's like, I'm not being heard. What the heck? I'm just going to not say anything. It's easier. I always knew that I'd come back to it. I always, like, there was something in me that knew I would come back to it. And just now recently, about maybe a little over a half a year, is when I started to sing in yoga classes again and bring the music out. And now the podcast and my membership site, it's all just kind of really quickly coming together. But when I said, okay, I'll put my music out there again, it is an angelic frequency. It's very light and uplifting, without diminishing any aspect of the human experience, because I definitely believe in all of it because we all experience all of it. But it is that elevating frequency, and boom, 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 I met my quote unquote people. I met my soul family. And now I have this group of soul family that I'm continuing to, like, the circle keeps getting bigger on Oahu. I just feel so full. I feel so filled with light. It's awesome. So if you're starting out, this is my point. It's a long way to say this point. If you're first starting out on this path, you've just kind of stepped off to the right or the left, and you're off the main highway, you're on your own little path through the wilderness, just keep up. Keep up, discover yourself. Let yourself be uncomfortable. And then find comfort in being uncomfortable, and keep walking. Rest when you need to, keep walking, because you're going to find your soul family. And it's a really, really amazing thing.
That was powerful what you just said. And I think that when you specifically said we have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, that in specific, for me, was one of the hardest things to do. And I feel like across the board, it's generally extremely hard for people. What were some of the ways that you were able to adapt to the uncomfortability? Because I think that's very important for people to hear as well.
The biggest influence for me to be able to find comfort in the uncomfortable has been Kundalini yoga. First off, Kundalini yoga puts you in positions, both physically and mentally, I guess, with the meditations that just aren't comfortable right away. But what it does is it teaches you how to make that posture or that breath work or whatever it is a meditation. Be with it, because as you continue to do this, it will work. But if you do something for a couple of seconds and then stop, it doesn't work. You need to, do your best and push through. Don't hurt yourself, but continue. As long as you really can continue and you're not hurting yourself, do it. And I remember that there were times when I would be doing the mantra meditations in the morning, and it's actually a full hour. I would do them and I would just start crying and crying, because what it does is when you meditate and when you give yourself the opportunity to be with yourself, yourself is going to show up, and you're not used to yourself because you've been pushing your true light down, right? So when that light comes up, it's going to show the parts of you that have been pushing and have been resisting. And it's going to show you that you're actually more than you think you are. And then you're kind of mind blown, and you don't know what to do because you don't know how to be, you're like, what does this even mean? Am I destroying myself? No, you're actually liberating yourself. But some things need to die for that new to be born, right? How about you?
For me, I would say it's really just, I'd have to say meditation. I'm a big fan of meditation, and it really allows me to just balance. Because like you're saying, meditation, I don't know how many people out there meditate, probably a lot, especially in this channel that we're on right now. Thank you for having me on this lovely podcast. We probably got a lot of meditators out there, and we all know that the first couple minutes of meditation are probably the toughest, because you got 60,000 thoughts that you unconsciously have been having that are hitting your brain at once. And your body's just kind of like, man, let's get up and move around. Like, I'm not trying to sit here for this long. And then after, you tell your body, we're just going to sit here. And then whatever you want to do afterwards, we can work out some agreement with that. But right now, we're sitting right here and we're not moving. And your body's like, okay. And then as time goes on, you see that there's a difference in the energy and the mind state that you're in. And it really allows you to be at peace. But like you were saying, it's about being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation and be willing to endure that situation to have those breakthroughs. That's really important. And for everybody, different situations, but that message is resonant through all of them.
Yeah, and it is different for everybody. I say that all the time, so it's going to get annoying probably for my listeners, but everybody's path is their path. And I think that's what's so beautiful. Live your path. You'd mentioned that, one thing you wanted to talk about was follow your heart and the importance of doing so. And I think you've covered that because just the things that we've talked about are all about following that heart. How do you differentiate between your heart and your mind?
I think that normally when my mind is intent on something, I'm a lot more stubborn towards it. Like, okay. I've noticed that there's a distinct difference between when my head's engaged in something and my heart's engaged in something and when everything is in flow. When my head's engaged in something deeply, I begin to get really stubborn on things, and I'll hear the other person out, but I still have a stubborn perspective. So that creates a wall in the conversation. And then I'll have to pull myself back for a second and say, well, why am I feeling stubborn? There must be some type of some reaction to what's being said, or something's being said that makes me feel a certain way, to where I have to feel like I have to put up this wall. And then when my heart is engaging in something, normally after I have that little conversation with myself, I say, oh, I understand this because, or I feel this way because, I felt a way about a situation like this in the past that I never dealt with, that is making this situation make me feel uncomfortable. Then I can be empathetic in that moment and give what is needed in order for there to be actual growth and a fluid connection between me and whoever that person is. I hope that was able to answer the question.
Very beautifully, in fact. And it's really what I've sensed with you throughout this whole conversation is that you are really here for other people. Like, obviously yourself is important to you as well, taking care of yourself and being true to yourself. But what that is being here for others as well and uplifting others. And as I mentioned before, we just need that in the world. So I'm really grateful. And I'm curious to know if you're ready to do a spoken word.
Yeah,
awesome.
Let's do it. Give me.
Awesome.
Let's take a couple of deep breaths.
Have some time.
The beauty in life often is found in the chaos, but the appreciation is not often in the moment, but it's in the lessons learned. Life is about the trial and tribulations that you're willing to endure in order to get what you have truly earned. From the lessons, the encounters, the people, and the experiences. It's all about putting yourself in uplifting opportunities to love, be one, and create unity. See, life is truly a miracle. With 400 trillion and one chances of being born a human being. And in this current time that we live in, to be alive now, there can be no greater thing, because there's really times in history where no one saw eye to eye. Everyone was divided, and there wasn't so much a spiritual tribe. And now we're coming back to our true state here in life. So let's just pull together and thrive, love and life.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. And if you want to hear more spoken word with Jay, please find him on Instagram. It will be in the show notes. Are there any other ways that you would like people to connect with you?
I have the podcast Controversial Minds, and the only other thing I could ask of the listeners is to continue to follow your heart and continue to uplift and support the people around you that bring light to you, like this lovely lady. I appreciate you for having me on your podcast. Once again, it is an honor and a blessing. And if there's anything I can do to help you out or contribute in any kind of way, shape, or form, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for being on the Light of Conscience podcast. You definitely embody the light of conscience, and I'm just so happy that you were able to join it for a little while, the podcast. You're always in the light of conscience. And yeah, so until next time, thank you so much. These interviews are so much fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed that one with Jalen. I also hope that if you like these podcasts and want early access and bonus content, including from this month, the video of Jalen doing his spoken word, please join Club LC. It supports Wayshowers to shine and spread their message. Find out more at bit.ly/club L C. Make sure the LC is capitalized because it stands for Light of Conscience. And Laura Christine.